My question, Speaker, is to the Premier. Yesterday, Premier, more bad news. General Motors and Chrysler have announced 40,000 jobs possibly going to be lost. We know there's going to be some effect on the Ontario economy. Premier, you know it's an economic tsunami where community after community is being affected across this province when it comes to job loss, and all you've been able to do is duck and hide. Your budget is not coming forward in order to deal with some of these issues, and we as New Democrats have put forward a number of initiatives in order to respond to the situation that we're in. If we've been able to do that from the opposition side of the benches, why have you as the government not acted on what is a crisis now in Ontario?
Premier.
Well, Speaker, I appreciate the question, and I want to remind this honourable colleague of some of the measures that we have already put in place. Again, just 4 months ago, we invested $1.1 billion through our Investing in Ontario Act and new infrastructure funding to our municipal partners. That work is underway right now and creating jobs right now. 4 days ago, working with the federal government, we announced $1 billion in infrastructure projects for smaller communities. And then again, just yesterday, Speaker, we announced another $500 million, that's $500 million, by way of new investment in GO transit improvements. Yep. Those are all projects, all government initiatives designed to create jobs in the short term and enhance our productivity in the long term. So, of course, I will disagree with my colleague when he says that we aren't doing anything between now and the budget. We've done much, and we'll keep doing more.
Well, Premier, nobody's going to argue that investments in infrastructure aren't important, but the bedrock of this economy is the automotive sector, the forestry sector, and other manufacturing sectors in this province, and they're bleeding jobs by the hundreds of thousands. So workers across this province are saying, if I haven't already got the pink slip, I'm worried I'm going to get one tomorrow. So my question to you is not what money you're putting into infrastructure, what are you going to do to affect the job losses in the manufacturing sector across this province?
Speaker, let me speak to the challenge being faced by our auto sector. And I understand the sentiment being expressed by my colleague. There is a great deal of anxiety being felt by Ontario families. In some cases, there's outright fear. And what we're experiencing in Ontario is really without precedent. I understand that, Speaker. But let me tell you what we're doing in the auto sector front. The first thing that we're doing is we're working as closely as we can, both with the federal government and the United States of America government, understanding we have a fully integrated industry, understanding that this is going through restructuring, but understanding what's at stake here is 400,000 good Ontario jobs, Speaker. So we have said to the auto industry, and my colleague is aware of this, we're prepared to put forward $4 billion by way of initial support for this particular industry. That's a significant contribution on the part of Ontario taxpayers. We'll expect that the auto sector, including the workers themselves, will bring something to the table, Speaker.
Premier, final supplementary.
Premier, you just don't get it. You're like the person at the crime scene who saw the crime and said, oh God, nothing I can do. Listen, we've lost these jobs over the last 3 or 4 years. We've seen job after job being bled out of southern Ontario across northern Ontario, and your government has sat back and done hardly nothing. You've had to wait for Obama in the United States or Stephen Harper to do something, and you sit here like an innocent bystander. So I say to you again, when are you going to take your responsibility as the Premier of Ontario and do something about trying to stop the massive job losses in this province?
Premier.
Speaker, again, I appreciate the perspective that my colleague brings, but I don't agree with it. And I just don't think Ontarians agree with it. I think they understand that something is happening that is pretty big, that comes from beyond Queen's Park and Ottawa, that is affecting the global economy in the whole, Speaker. I think they understand that. I think what they want us to do is everything that we can, and we will continue to do everything that we can, Speaker. One of the things that I want to remind my colleague in terms of recent supports we provided for Timmins-James Bay. Just last week, we've invested in the drinking water distribution system in that riding. We've invested in Hollywood Boulevard construction, in the Timmins East End Water Supply Improvement Project, and in the fire hall renovation, Speaker. Those are continuing investments. Those are important to the people living in that community. They will create jobs in the short term, and they'll enhance the productivity and competitiveness of that community in the long term.